episode of the Lebanon Star. We are featuring some unbelievable stars of Lebanon, Jacob and Chris Shaw. You guys are absolutely awesome. You guys pour into this community, you pour into people, but you guys have also been poured into from your life. You guys have grown up in Lebanon. Mm-hmm. So tell us a little bit about your story, first individually, and then how you guys met, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, I'll go first. My name is Jacob Shaw, as you said, and I am born and raised in Lebanon. I was born in a cabin in the woods on the Little Miami River.
Literally a cabin in the woods.
Literally a cabin in the woods. We had just gotten running water. My dad had dug a spring.
And this was last year, right?
This was, yeah. No, don't be silly. It was only 25 years ago. My dad had dug a spring to a cistern, and that's how we got our running water, and I lived there until I was 5. We transplanted just for a little bit to Clarksville, Clinton, Massey, and then we moved back here shortly after. I was in junior high. And graduated from Lebanon High School. We took a little stint away from Lebanon for college. I went to school at Eastern Kentucky for 1 year. And then
I did not realize that. You're a colonel, just like myself.
Well, just for a year. And let me explain why I was only there for a year. You see, I'm a year older than she was, and so when I graduated, I went to EKU for a year, and realizing that this woman is the love of my life, I wanted to follow her. So I transferred from EKU, and we went down to Lee University together.
Oh, wonderful.
Graduated in education. Both of us became teachers. We taught in North Georgia. And in 2006, the Lord called us back to Lebanon. And so we have been residents, full-time residents, obviously, of Lebanon since 2006. We built a home in her family land, and that has really allowed a lot of opportunities for us to be able to lead ministry and to host and to be stewards of what the Lord has blessed us with. Yeah.
So Chris, tell us your story.
Obviously connected a lot toward the end there. I moved here when I was 3, so as you touched on a little bit, moved to the land that we currently live on. My grandpa owned a plot of land, and my dad was the oldest of 4, and he lived in Cleveland. And so he stayed there and finished his senior year, but my uncle and my 2 aunts moved here, and they went to Lebanon. But my grandpa had a dream that one of his kids would build next to him, and that was my dad. So of course the other ones kind of felt that they wanted to they'd already lived here and wanted to move out, so we were really grateful. Started living here when I was 3, like I said, but I attended Ridgeville Christian, which is no longer a school.
Yes.
So kindergarten through 12th grade is actually where I went, but very connected to Lebanon. Played sports here, friendships here. Involved in the city through that. Obviously, that is where Jake and I met. When I was 15, I was playing soccer with friends in Lebanon, and at her birthday party, and he rollerbladed on in. That's where
throw in the towel. She's done. She saw me rollerblading.
With
the rest is
bandana on his
right.
head.
15-year-old rollerblading around.
I'm assuming you didn't have knee pads or elbow pads.
Safety third is what Jake says. So safety is definitely not in his vocabulary. So he actually walked in with a neighbor of mine that lived on my street. So that's kind of all I remember. But we kind of started talking, and at the time, his faith journey started a little bit after that. So he actually found the Lord a couple months after we met. And after that, I think it's just been
4 months and 8 days.
See. Oh, well, yes, thank you.
Wow.
And I would just say this is, in so many ways, is just a true love story.
It is.
It really, really is, as the journey you have taken in. So anyway, I love that fellow educators and had the opportunity, and I feel as though I have known your families forever.
Yeah.
And they have a daughter that just graduated, and I always joked when I came to the party, I said, really, what I want to see all the Shaws, because I have such great memories from all of that, and your mom, and so very, very special. I feel like I just have a very special bond and connection to you all, and I feel so grateful that you are a part of my life.
You are
Likewise.
So many-
Feel the
You
same
are
We
way.
are
amazing.
hometowners. We
Yeah.
We feel the
bleed
same
maroon
way.
and white, and I was
Yes.
actually last night. I could not put my phone down watching the
The
girls
game.
softball championship. That is
That's
so
so true.
exciting. I
So-
literally got goosebumps just thinking
Yeah.
about it right
Yeah.
now.
Yes.
It's just, I mean, there's just so much pride in our hometown, and I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
For
love
sure.
our sports teams. I love coaching because I do coach at the high school, and the staff, everything. I just love it. Yeah.
Well, let's talk a little bit about, you guys teach, so you guys are educators.
Yeah.
So you said you started in Georgia, and
Yes.
and what were you teaching then in there?
So I actually, our plan was to come back home, just being both from here.
Right.
But he had graduated a year early, well, actually a semester early, just from transferring, and he was doing hardwood flooring, and I was doing my student teaching, and the plan was to come back home. But we realized very quickly that Ohio really wanted you to have a license in your hand, and so we had one of our mutual professors had recommended us to interview. And it was all of Chatsworth. All the principals were going to interview them. We thought it'd be great practice because we weren't not really get anywhere.
Yeah.
Before I wasn't graduated yet, so we went. I remember sitting at this really long table with every principal in the whole district.
Very intimidating.
And it was very intimidating. We're like, okay,
Yes.
this helps us get used to this. That's all it was.
Yeah.
And then Mr. C.L. Dunn
C.L.
called us
Dunn.
both and offered us a position in Chatsworth, Georgia at Northwest Elementary down there. And we went, wow, I feel like this is the Lord telling us to stay for
Right.
a little bit. So we both worked in the same elementary school. I taught second grade and he was fifth grade. Was it fourth first and then?
Fifth first, and
First,
then,
and then
I switched
fourth.
into fourth grade. So for the first 5 years, we drove to work together, went home from work together. The ride home was a lot quieter just because after a long day of
Day
teaching,
work, you're pretty
you just-
tired,
you
pretty
just-
exhausted.
you're
Especially
a
for him.
zombie.
Yeah.
I don't know. I talked for the first
Yeah,
10
and
minutes.
so it was just an incredible opportunity for us
It was.
to me, like to see the Lord working in a way of like, hey, let's just do this for experience, but then flipping it around to like we developed an incredible friendship with our staff there. We loved where we lived, the neighborhood that we lived in. Our oldest daughter was born down there, and so it was a great experience. So yeah, we're very thankful for it now.
And
so
then you came back home, and
Yeah.
then okay, how did that work? Because your school systems are
Yeah.
a little different. So,
So
tell us about
let me
that.
tell the
Yeah.
story as to how
Interesting.
we really were decided to make that transition coming back to Ohio. So like I said, our oldest daughter was born in February of 2005, and so she was about, I guess, 10 months old at that time. We came home for a Christmas break. And, typically when you're coming into town from out of town, you're trying to make all the visits to all your relatives. And so you see my side of the family, you see her side of the family, and it's exhausting, especially with a 10-month-old. And so as we're leaving, exhausted on the ride home, it's late at night. And I remember Chris was in the passenger seat. I was driving. She had fallen asleep, and Caitlin, our oldest, in the back in the car seat was asleep. And so it was just an opportunity for me to just kind of sit in quiet. And it was one of the most specific, audible times that I remember the Lord saying to me, it's time to move home.
Yeah.
And I heard his voice very clearly, and I kind of shrugged it off like, no, we're not, it's not time. We're not supposed to be moving home. We, like I said, we loved where we lived. We loved our staff, our family there. But he clearly said it. He said, it's time to move home. And I remember I woke Chris up.
Just to interrupt quickly, because he had said we were never moving home.
I said, we will never move home.
Oh,
Oh, you just
Why
gotten-
did you say that? Just
Let me. So the story is as we were dating even in college, and then obviously when we got married, her parents had always said that you're welcome to, we'd love for you to build in the back of our house. And I would nod my head and secretly going, there ain't no way I'm living in my in-laws' backyard.
Right.
So I had said that, like I had no desire to do that. And I'm not one to argue when the Lord tells you to do something, He'll make sure you do it. And so I woke Chris up and I said, it's time for us to move home. And the rest is history. From that point, really, it was a matter of like, that was Christmas break. And so that entire spring of 2006, I drove up here about every other weekend to just hound every school that I possibly could. And I landed with Lakota. So I started teaching in Lakota that fall in 2006.
Wow.
So in a span of about 6 months, we had moved up here, lived in her parents' basement while I started building a house. And so this is a house that my dad is a carpenter. My dad is one of the most talented men on the face of the planet. And so I had gotten a plan for a house, and I showed it to him. And he and I and my younger brother, and of course your dad helped out.
My brother,
It
and even
was a
your
family
uncle,
affair.
Rob Shaw. That is, his name is on the
We
the
broke
baseball
ground.
field. He helped us
Yeah.
excavate
Rob.
our home, and
So we
He
broke
excavated
ground.
my home.
Did
Yeah,
he?
we
Yes,
broke
he did.
ground in June of 2006, and so and then our second daughter was born in September, and so it was a very tough time
basement of
in the
my
basement.
parents' house,
Well,
yeah.
she was born in a hospital, but
Well,
we lived in the
obviously, yes.
basement.
She was born in a
I mean,
cabin too.
yeah, I was
right?
gonna say
No,
it was
yeah,
crazy
sorry,
enough
that's
to
true.
do
When you
that.
think about the story, she's terrifying.
But yeah, it was tough, and I know I'm kind of jumping all over the place. But going back to teaching, so in 2006, I started teaching in the fall at Lakota, teaching 4th grade at Cherokee Elementary, and then realized that I really wanted to coach. And Lakota is such a big district.
Oh, big district.
Yeah, so the elementary schools don't get out until like after 4 o'clock, and so if I wanted to be able to coach any high school sport, I needed to be at least at the junior high. And
Yeah.
so with 1 year later, 2007, I started teaching at Plains Junior High, and it's been there for now, gosh, 17 years.
17 years. Well, because interesting enough, doing the DC trips, we actually had the opportunity at one point to go to DC
Okay, now
together.
Lois,
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
the middle of all this journey for Jacob, what happened to you? How did you become teaching up here?
Yes, I knew that the Lord had called me to education when I was a senior in high school. Came back from a mission trip and thought I was going to be a nurse. Actually, it was the spring of my senior year, so pretty close to going to leave, but they didn't have a nursing program. And a teacher said, "Have you thought about teaching?" And it just hit me that was the piece that I had been trying to control,
Right.
and the Lord was calling me into education. So, and when I went to Lee, felt when I went to declare my major that the Lord was definitely calling me into public education. So our kids even, they were at Lebanon Christian at the time when I decided to go back, but I was just doing it more, to me, just to go through the motions. He had asked me, like, maybe it's time to start getting your feet wet again. Only had subbed maybe twice and filled out the application, thought, okay, that's just practice, and then came in for some, I think there was like a second round of applications or something. And then the interview came and I thought, okay, I'm still just going to go through the motions. There's no way I'll get this. And when I was offered the position, 2 weeks before the school year started, the whirlwind kind of just went like, oh my goodness, I'm doing this. And so I got hired at Donovan Elementary, teaching 3rd grade, language arts and social studies, next to this lovely lady.
Had an opportunity.
teacher.
We got to spend time and work together. It was amazing.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
It was
Yes.
a great place to work, and was partnered with a great teaching partner that was a woman of faith that we got to pray with, and really helped me through that year, because I felt like it was definitely, I had not gotten time to really start to prepare my mind mentally, like just on what academics look like and where things look like in education. So I definitely spent most meetings writing down the infamous acronyms in education, writing question marks like, what is this? And realizing, oh, okay, this is just what they called,
And
whatever
you're
this was.
transitioning
So,
from a mom
yes, that
to
was
teacher and trying to figure out how to balance family.
We didn't. I don't think we did that very well. I think that it was definitely one of those things like, oh my goodness, this is happening, and so you just go. And of course,
You put your
being-
2 feet forward and you
I don't know
just
if there's
go.
anybody that does it well when you're parenting young ones and then getting back into the workplace and everything else. But
yeah,
I
and I
think
think we just didn't mentally prepare either,
Yeah.
because it was, since we weren't. Which, I mean, the Lord is so good, because I think He definitely knows what we needed. But we had become parents when I was a stay-at-home mom and he was working 2 jobs. So you kind of learn how to parent in a different way when you are a stay-at-home mom. And I didn't really know what to ask, and he really didn't know what to do. And so I remember I did get to Christmas break, and it felt I was kind of at the verge of a little bit of a panic attack. I was feeling like, oh my goodness, I can't do this, and I just had to leave, and realized, wow, I hadn't even really asked. I had just been doing, the things that I thought were my responsibilities. I hadn't really said, I need help. And so we grew a lot as a couple, and understanding the growth of working together in that realm, that we were both Of course, we've both been parents, but the roles were changing in how
Yeah.
we partnered and all of that.
Yeah.
So
There's a lot of bumps and bruises in the learning experience,
But
making
that's
that
what grew
transition.
you guys together and
It
made you guys
absolutely
a
is.
huge
For sure.
family.
Mhm.
And then all of a sudden you got this little bit of this whirlwind of God saying, hey, let's allow you to like host a bunch of teenagers and
Yeah.
kids over here and have people drive through your front yard in all kinds of inclement weather. And
Yes.
so what's this crazy idea called the Impact Shack?
So,
where did this come from?
Yeah, so let me go back to, it was actually probably 2015. When did we start PVM? Was that 2015? So through our previous church, we had met a couple that ran a camp near Houston Woods, and it was called Pleasant Vineyard Ministries, and we had an opportunity to be able to be program directors for a summer camp. And so we just thought it would be great for our kids, because we went and actually stayed at the camp, lived there for the time that they had the camps, and it was just a great experience for us to develop programming for we had everything, first grade all the way through 8th grade, 9th grade, something around there, so it was a large span of
large span of kids.
and so it
Second
allowed us an
row.
opportunity to be able to learn how to develop programming for all that, games and also,
It was an adventure camp too.
yeah. And so we
yeah,
helped, we worked
ziplining,
with
It was an adventure for you guys.
It
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 sounds
was, yeah. And so
was.
we worked on even developing the curriculum for it and stuff like that. And so we did that for a couple of years, and we began to love really working in ministry together. And so in 2018, we had an opportunity to be able to start what's called Impact. And in our previous church, they had what were called Impact Clubs, and where essentially they had like-minded people. There could have been an athletic impact club, there could have been an art impact club, and ultimate frisbee,
gaming,
CrossFit, things
yeah.
like that. And so we had reached out to our pastor because our oldest daughter, obviously we live in Lebanon, she taught in Lebanon, I coached in Lebanon, but we went to church in Mason, and we absolutely loved our church, but our oldest daughter wasn't able to get connected with the youth group because there was a lot of Mason kids and so forth. And
Well, I remember our youth pastor did come and talked about it on a Sunday morning,
Yeah.
and had actually just kind of made a call of like, is anyone feeling called to do one of these? And we both felt like the stirring of the Lord then, that he was calling us to host one in our home. But we kind of waited for, our kids kind of mentioned it. It's a big deal to have a lot of people come into your home, and wanted them to be ready. At the time, we were going to be hosts, and host only, and there were going to be some like college age
Ready,
leaders.
hosts only.
Yes,
Yeah.
that was the
That's
idea, that we were going to like
That's
feed
how it
and
started.
host it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, so I was coaching junior high volleyball, and so I thought, a great opportunity for Caitlin, our oldest, to invite our team, over, and then of course a couple other friends, and so in the fall of 2018, we opened up our home to 23 students, and like you said, there were a couple college students that helped us out, and they kind of ran things at the very beginning, and then it began to grow. Exponentially. We had, like you said, we had people dropping kids off. We had roughly 75 students within a few months, to the point where myself would be at the end of the driveway and another one of our leaders would be down at the bottom of the driveway, because we
Trying
have
to-
a pretty treacherous driveway because there's a hill, and so we would be on the phone with each other, like, I'm holding 6 cars, when are you sending 6 cars up? And he'd send cars down, and I'd flag them down, and so we did that for about a
the
year
grace
and a
of
half.
God that no one ever got no
Yeah,
or a
yeah,
vendor.
it is.
It really is.
I remember.
But where did they do this? Because our viewers may not be familiar with the Impact Shack.
Yeah.
So it was like, okay, you got this vision to start to do this, but then you built something.
Well, it
Yeah.
was in our basement
Yeah.
at first.
Yeah.
It was in our basement at
Yes.
first, and just a testament to just for your viewers, giving the Lord your yes and trusting Him in that process. Incredible things can happen. And I'm not saying like it's all going to be sunshine and rainbows. Everything's going to be
Definitely
perfect. It's going to be dirty. It's going to be ugly, but
Listen.
it's going to be good.
Yeah.
And everything from the Lord is good. And so we had given Him our full yes. And so from that point on, we kind of tell the story of like building the bike as we're riding it. And kind of that's been the story of Impact. And so we did that in our basement for about a year and a half. And then again, I felt the Lord kind of stirring us to say, we need a facility to be able to like, well, number one, our basement's getting destroyed. In fact, our daughter was down there yesterday, and I looked at the wall and I said, what is that from? And one of our other leaders was actually down there. She said, that's from Impact. Like, there's a big hole in the wall.
We used to play Name That Substance at the end of the year
Yeah.
as I'm
That
cleaning the
spaghetti
walls. I'm
dinner
like,
that we
I think
had
that
at
was
the
ice
wall.
cream. That may have been Skylight.
Yeah, and so November of 2019, we essentially got a loan from the bank and emptied the equity of our home and said, all right, Lord, we're pushing all our chips in, and you're going to provide a space for these students. And so in the November of 2019, I started building the Impact Shack, the barn that we have in the back. And so I slowly did that piece by piece, and then of course we all know what happened in the spring of 2020. It was boy, that was a tough time for everybody. However, it was, I can see now looking back, a blessing for just our family as well, in a number of areas. Being teachers, we had time to be able to be home with our kids, but it also allotted me time to be able to build the Impact Shack. And so I worked tirelessly on the Impact Shack, and we opened that up to high school in the fall of 2020.
Yeah.
And yeah.
That was our goal when it was junior high, was to move with those students from
Right.
the 7th and 8th grade through high school. And that group graduated 2 years ago that we had started with. And but as we went up to high school and stayed into high school age.
So some of our viewers may not have any idea what the Impact Shack is.
Oh yeah, let's go.
So tell us what it is.
Yeah,
That's
and
probably
so
important,
let me explain a little bit as to why we felt a calling for it. I could go back to my story. I got saved when I was 16 years old. I was going into my junior year. It was August 16th of 1994. And at that time, I could think back to contemporary Christian music. DC Talk was big, Audio Adrenaline. So there was some really, like, I felt like I was like, I could still, I could be with my friends that I had had previously.
But listen to cool music.
But listen to really cool music, you know? It was really, really difficult for me when I went back to the high school. And not to say that my friends are awesome. They were great, and I'm still friends with them, still to this day. But what I found that was hard for me in high school was I had zero fellowship. There was no discipleship. There was nothing for me outside of a church youth group. Well, what do you do for somebody who's never been to church? I could probably count on one hand how many times I'd stepped foot into a church. So I went to her church at Ridgeville for a little while, but I didn't know any of the students in her youth group. And so I've just always had a longing for high school students who need the discipleship and the mentoring as they take this faith journey, because it's a very difficult, it's difficult. I think the enemy puts a target on our youth and will attack in any way that he possibly can.
Yeah.
And so the more people that we have surrounding our youth and lifting them up, the better off that they're going to be. We read that 40% of teenagers leave their faith when they leave for college.
Yeah.
And a lot of that comes from a very weak foundation, not being discipled properly, and not having an opportunity to really build roots in their faith. And so the start of Impact and the Impact Shack ultimately comes from a place where we want to be able to have a safe space for students to grow in their faith, to experience the love of the Father, and to also have hope. I think so much of what we see in the news and everything else paints a picture of a hopeless generation. The fact is that there is so much hope. We have to be able to, as adults, we have to be able to come around these youth and also create a space for them.
We have to be the role models.
Absolutely.
We have to be the role models.
Yeah, absolutely.
And to
I
your-
absolutely agree with that.
Yes.
But I will tell you that Impact Shack has changed because these kids have been the role models of what God has been doing at the Impact Shack. It's that incredible to watch.
Well,
because
it's
I think
that
these
domino
kids are
effect.
teaching more.
You have your
Absolutely.
adults, think you have your youth, who then mentor one another
Yeah.
and bring others in.
Absolutely.
It's just that relationship, those connections. It's-
My heart was, and I feel like the Lord had kind of called me to that Naomi and Ruth relationship where we have a responsibility for us, a joy to be able to look to the generation before, to be mentored ourselves, but also then go to the generation after to be able to pour into. And mentorship and discipleship seems so big and heavy, but really we had heard even another statistic about like the rule of 5, that every kid needs like 5 trusted adults in their life. And it doesn't have to be someone who is meeting with them in intense Bible study. It can be someone who says, hey, how'd your math test go?
It can be a coach. It can
How
be a
are you
teacher.
checking
Yes.
in? So like, how can we come around these kids to be able to be one of those people just to say like, yes, they were there if I needed them. But to your point, to be blessed by these kids too, because, and as a teacher, I feel like that's my foundational philosophy, is I learn from my kids, and I grow and I become a better human because I can learn from these kids. And
Yes.
our heart was that we could have these kids come in and from the kids be able to touch these families, and then the ripples that can happen. And I mean, we've kind of laughed and said, we couldn't believe how many kids just came to like our basement. We're like, this sounds kind of creepy, right? You know, like people didn't know us, and the numbers that just began to grow. And we filled out a flyer to say, hey, just to tell you, like, hey, I'm a teacher in Lebanon. And but I think these parents were desperate for their kids to know who God was, but struggle going into a typical church building. And so to have a space to send their child that they knew, and then we've been blessed to be able. I think that's the Holy Spirit just has gone and made it feel safe, because that's what we wanted it to be.
That's what you guys created. You created a safe environment. And yeah, you guys are one of the people that's there, but you also invited other people, not from necessarily one church, just people in this community that have got a chance to pour into kids, and that they've all been there. And so that creates, there are 2 or 3 or 4 sometimes of those people that are involved in these kids' lives, and these kids felt safe. My daughter was wrapped up in and watching what happened, and we watched, and it's so encouraging because you guys turned around and said, we're just going to open a place, and then we're going to build a place. And so that's the Impact Shack, and it has created this movement where it's, how many kids are, you've had times where you've had over 100 kids there. I know that.
Well over 100.
150, I think
And I've done
158 was our
I've
top.
done some simple math. In the past 7 years, there have been about 15,000 students that have stepped foot onto our property.
I bet you there are a bunch of kids right now
Yeah.
that are probably watching this, and hopefully you guys are turning around and liking this and sharing it and doing all those things that you do.
Yeah.
But they've impacted so many people's lives, and applaud you guys for that journey.
Yeah.
So
It's totally the Lord.
yeah, that is exactly. But now there's another journey happening.
Yes.
So tell us about what's going on now.
Yeah. And so with the growth of Impact, actually just a few years ago, we had decided to open up or start a nonprofit, and that's what Matthew 18 Ministries is. So Impact is now kind of under the umbrella of Matthew 18 as our nonprofit. And just to give some background, Matthew 18 is based on the parable of the lost sheep, and so how the shepherd leaves the 99 to go after the one. And I know it's great, and we look at our numbers and things like that, and the number of kids that have come, but honestly, it's really truly about the one. So we want to be able to serve the one. We want to go after the one, just as our Father does. And so with the nonprofit, we had an opportunity to be able to be a part of a project with the city of Lebanon and on Broadway. And so I remember growing up as a kid, the old car wash that was in the parking lot there. Yeah, where
next to Sherwin-Williams.
Sherwin-Williams was right there. I remember all of that. And so so the car wash is now the pickleball courts, which the city had done a fantastic job on that. But in 2023, after some work in convincing the city.
Some work.
Yeah, there was quite a bit of work that went into it. But yeah, in 2023, again, we pushed all our chips in. We emptied out our equity in our home, some of our retirement and everything. We said, all right, Lord, we're going to go ahead and continue building this bike as you're driving it. And so we purchased the building at 535 North Broadway.
was not the
And
plan.
he gave you an e-bike. He didn't just give you a bike.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
pedaling fast.
This thing was going fast. Yeah, it was not. It was not.
It was
It was
not
not
our
our plan. Again,
No.
so many times we have in our lives that we have a vision of what we think our life is going to look like until sometimes the Lord says, you know,
The
doesn't
picture
about
then
face.
looks a little different.
Yeah, and so, but again,
Very
we
different.
fully
Yeah.
trust Him. It has
do.
not been an easy process at all. It's been actually incredibly difficult, but He has been good through it all. So in the fall of 2023,
We trust Him.
yeah, we started
Even when it doesn't
renovating
look
that, and I got a loan from my older brother and a loan also from my younger brother. So it's another family affair, and so
Yeah.
our goal was to kind of slowly renovate it to open up the coffee shop, which we Script Coffee is in the front. That's a lease that we have. They're an incredible organization to work with, and then we've slowly started working. It's an 11,000 square foot building. And so right now we're in the process of finishing off the back space, and that should be done in the next few weeks with
That's
the hopes
awesome.
of,
Yeah.
again, kind of taking what we've had with the Impact Shack. And I've always said, and I told our students this as they left for the spring and Impact, you know, the Holy Spirit is not confined by just four walls of the Impact Shack. It's something that dwells within us, and regardless of our location or where we are, the students, that student body that we had right there, they're the hands and feet of Jesus. They're the ones that are important, and so we want to just take what we've been able to do at the Impact Shack and make that the new space there at 535 North Broadway. We're calling it the Matthew 18 Ministry Center because, again, it is going to be kind of a community hub. We want to be able to open doors up for a lot of nonprofits.
What I love
Thanks.
about the space, but in particular the location, it is you take a look at where the Barry School is, and it just feels like it's in the heart
Yeah.
of downtown,
Yes.
where I believe God said it belonged.
Yes. Yeah. We've
You
said
know,
that. We've said that
that's-
it's
So when you had the prayer walk and you met and everything, and everybody was walking down, and I saw online where this was left for me and this was left for me, and we prayed in front of City Hall and whatever. It just, that's what I loved.
Yeah.
Loved. It's that just touching.
yeah, and the
The
location
heart, the
is
heart of the city.
yes, the
Yeah.
location is such a blessing being able to be
It
so
really-
close to Barry, as well as even the junior high.
Junior high.
The last day of school, I can remember I was there at the building, and there were dozens of students that were walking by
Yeah.
on the way downtown. But that is our mission now.
So you guys don't know this, but Amy and I had a conversation when I was a youth pastor 20-something years ago. And we were talking about a building, a community center. And it was
wow.
Kevin Schwieger was involved as
Kevin.
well.
Kevin.
And we were talking about a place called No Place, K-N-O-W, place, a place where people get to know Christ.
Yeah.
Wow.
And here it is.
Yeah.
You guys have No Place.
Yeah.
And it's a really, really cool
It's an
thing because it's watching God's plan move forward.
Yeah.
And you guys have been the conduit to say, yes, I'm willing to turn around and do this. We were striving to find the right place.
Yeah.
We thought, well, where LCMB could be a possibility
Yeah.
to turn around, but that didn't end up happening. And
Yeah.
so it's kind of incredible to watch. And here you guys are with this property and this building and this space that you guys are saying, here I am, send
Yeah.
me.
Yes.
And you have no clue what it's going to end up turning into be.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah,
funny you
that's been the
mentioned
hardest part.
it's funny you mentioned Kevin Schwieger. He's a good friend of ours as well, and he
Yeah.
has a great definition for what faith is, because that's what this journey has been. He says faith is the ability to look forward to the hindsight, and so it's stepping on in faith and knowing that, Lord, one day this journey is tough, but I know one day I'm going to look forward to actually looking back at the work of your hands and what
Yeah.
you've done through us, because again, it all glory to God and everything that we're doing. All of our successes are not our successes; they're His.
They're
And
His.
so we are simply just
Yeah.
vessels for Him, and we're blessed by it.
So we're going to watch
Wow.
back on this episode 20 years
Yeah,
from now, we're going,
yeah.
oh, remember when?
I love it. I would
That's
love
so
to.
But let's talk about the plan. So you've got your ministry that's going to be in here, but
Mhm.
tell us about what you were thinking is going to happen. What's the vision right now God's planted in you guys' hearts for this building and this space?
God's so good to know us too, and I think that, like we said, through this is never our plan. This has definitely just been a moment of like, Lord, we want to live our lives surrendered. We want to say yes to everything, and so when this came about in April, it was like, no, this is we don't want this, and then it was just kind of like, okay, we're going to take that one step. We're just going to take that one step, and we've lived trusting He was going to reveal it. And there's been times where like, okay, anytime now.
Anytime.
Well, we're waiting, And but when you look back, He's given us what we needed when we needed it, but not more than that. And I think that's where our faith has grown. I think He's grown us individually. Because Jacob is such a capable and talented guy that he can take a project and run with it. But I think the Lord has slowed him to listen. And I have had the privilege of watching my husband grow in the Lord through it, and I think that's why He gives us stuff a lot of times too. I mean, like He gives us all these talents, that parable, but like it's to sanctify us, it's to grow us, and we just feel privileged that in the kingdom that He's using us, and Lebanon is such a sweet place. We feel like the Lord has said that Lebanon is a city set apart.
Yes.
To do something miraculous.
Yes.
And this placement of this building, we feel like it's a light on a hill. It doesn't seem like an accident of where it's located, and we're so thankful that the city was so willing to take a chance to make this something. And I think we have no idea what it could be, but we have high hopes of it.
The
being
potential
something.
is
Potential
beyond
is
incredible.
huge. But we do feel like, so we had a friend kind of coin a phrase with Impact. It was called the train station. So where it was this place where people could come and learn about who God is, and then we wanted to send them out into the local churches. We wanted to link arms with the amazing kingdom followers and kingdom workers that are already here. Because we are those volunteers. We're just, I teach now at Barry, which is also, I feel like, not an accident. But it's like, what does the Lord want to do with this? And how does He want to link us? You look at a lot of these amazing ministries that are in place in the city as well.
Yes.
And it's like, wow, I love that. But like, how can we come together and how can we serve? Because we're all for the same goal. And we feel like there's something the Lord wants to do here with that. He wants to have this as a connector, a piece that brings us all together to serve for this common goal and this common purpose. And when we say that Impact is to be able to serve, the high school student, to be able to connect them to the Lord, well, we feel like this is going to grow to a multi-generational place where people can come. Actually had a teacher at Barry that said, what about an adult impact club? Because I would love to be able to come and just fellowship with other people, learn about who God is, in this place that feels safe, that feels a little bit, not that church can be threatening to people, not because of anything we've done in the church, but
maybe past experiences as
Church hurt. Yeah, sure.
that creates that barrier.
Yeah.
for sure, it's intimidating.
Yes.
And it doesn't mean that anyone's done anything wrong.
No.
But maybe if we could be that piece that kind of links them to say like, hey, like let's actually get past some of that hurt, and then link arms with the churches to be able to say like, hey, let's do this thing together.
Yeah.
So that's our hope. We
Yeah,
just
and
finished the
ultimately-
one space in the back that is one of my favorite places. That
Little prayer room.
yes, and hopefully it'll be a place that people can actually just come and pray and join together.
Yeah. But really, to answer the question, we're kind of doing this project kind of open-handed of just like saying, all right, Lord, I'm going to finish this little bit, and then kind of wait and listen. So spending a lot of time in prayer. And again, we've anointed every corner of that building and said that, Lord, we even wanted to take the deed and write His name on it because it belongs to Him. So we're just kind of waiting on Him. But for right now, we are moving forward and hoping that it can be a blessing to the community.
So now that you're out of school,
Yeah.
you have the
I'm there,
opportunity.
yeah.
You're probably there every day.
Yep. That's
Working
why I said,
and working. You got through your
the cameras from
graduation
here up.
and
I
now
have my
you're.
work shorts on,
Yes,
dust
so-
and everything
yes,
else.
yes.
Yeah.
You're in the process of doing the floor and
Yeah.
lighting.
Because he is
and things like that.
extreme. He is so.
Yeah.
He is
Oh, Amy,
so
go
talented.
on,
He
go
is
on.
so talented.
Yes.
His
That's part of
work
your
is
family. You
yes.
know that.
Well, I was
Yes,
just going to say,
100%.
he
Well,
talked
that-
about his dad. It's been passed
That
on.
is,
Yeah,
that is
sure.
something.
Yes.
That is another thing that has been a blessing is the Lord has given me a talent to be able to build
And for you to be able to
construct, and
use
to be a
it.
visionary,
100%.
and I
You
want
can
to
have a
completely
talent,
turn that
but-
around and use for His kingdom.
Yeah.
And so it really is. It's an incredible thing to look back on. Again, the story of faith, the ability to look forward to the hindsight, is looking back at me doing the work and building my house myself has afforded us the equity to be able to then turn and use for the kingdom. Like, we would not have been able to build the barn. We would not have been able to buy this building if it weren't for going back and looking at the Lord saying, number one, here's the land to build your home.
Yeah, yeah.
Number two, here's the talents to build your home. So now what are you going to do with those two things? And it's good to look back and go, like, I feel like we were good stewards of the finances and the talents that He's blessed us with.
Well, and
By-
now
by
you've got a
God's grace.
situation, you've got a ministry now that is also set up. So if you're out there looking to say, hey, I would like to give to an organization
Yeah.
that has done a great job managing their talents and working with it and is impacting this community, here's an organization I really, really encourage you guys to consider.
Yeah.
Because there are needs. We, again, you have
Absolutely.
no clue what this bicycle is going to be looking
Yeah.
like and who it's going to be turning around and impact. So
Yeah.
how do they do that? Where do people find more information about you?
Yeah, so I'll talk briefly about our needs. Our needs for this first year, essentially my goal in this space is to be able to create a white box. I want to be able to provide everything that is needed turnkey to go into the space. However, with high school students or any students for that matter, we would love to be able to furnish it with comfortable seating, tables, lighting, sound, those types of things. And those are all a need that we have coming up soon. Because like I said, I'm hoping to finish the space in the next month, and we'd love to be able to furnish the space. Outside of that, our goal in the future is to staff it. And so with a part-time staff member being able to be available after school each day to facilitate learning, discipleship,
Whatever the
mentoring,
Lord,
whatever
yeah.
the Lord, and this
Brings.
again.
Yeah.
Patience.
Yeah,
Yeah.
patience.
Because that person's going to have to be patient.
Oh, they're going to be very
100%.
patient, because a big part of that also, what we would love to be able to do is for that person to also develop relationships with families. And so when the students are coming in here, start learning about the families of Lebanon and the needs of the families that we have in Lebanon, because there is such a need for support in some of the families that we have. And being
Yep.
teachers, we see it firsthand
Yeah.
through their children.
Yeah.
And so we want to be able to be a light for our community, but also help and support in any way that we can. And then further down the road, and of course there's bills, as you guys know, with any property. There's utilities, there's taxes, there's insurance, there's rent. So
Roof problems.
roof
All the
issues,
just
maintenance
things
issues,
that come up.
all donations go directly towards any of those areas. And so the best way to give is they can go to Matthew18ministries.com. All donations are tax deductible. We're a nonprofit. We're a registered 501c3. And there's a link that they can go to donate there, and they can donate directly to our organization. And then, of course, they could also write a check, 535 North Broadway, Unit C, Matthew 18 Ministries.
Yeah.
So
So I definitely want to encourage you if you're looking at that. So recently I heard about a story at graduation.
mm,
And I want you guys to tell that story because this is something you've impacted.
mm. You tell it. Can you tell it without
I
crying?
don't know. I guess just to be vulnerable, I think that we've had from year to year, we ask the Lord, what is this? This is just something He's called us to, but I think sometimes the Lord calls you to different things. So we just say, Lord, what is impact supposed to be? Are we still supposed to do this? And, our numbers start to change and dynamics of kids change. And so we say, well, do we do the same thing? We have, I think, the privilege of not being like a youth group where this is the way we do things. So every year you can say, what is it that the kids want? And so we always ask. We start off with a Google form. But our numbers have been very different this year. And So we're like, okay, what does that look like? Can we get closer? How do we get to know these kids? And because for us, again, it's about that one. So we've been able to have deeper relationships, but also we can get weary too. Just it's tiring, and so you go, okay, maybe this isn't it. Maybe God's calling to something different when we move to the building. Maybe it's not impact, and maybe it's going to look different. And we had 2 students that had written us. They had in 2 different places in YWAM and at their university. They were writing on their testimony and started talking about how it started in the Impact Jack and how much they were so grateful for that. And it was like, wow, thank you, Lord, for encouraging us. But still, like, okay, is that it? And then we're like, we will say yes and do whatever the Lord wants us to do until He says to stop. And we were like, okay, what does this look like? And we went to college or high school graduation. Just for our daughter, and being a staff member, I have the privilege of being on the floor, and I get to give the diploma. So I was sitting on the floor, and we were listening to the student body president, Isaac Parlett, and was giving a great speech. He was so eloquent, doing a great job, and just talking about our great city and just the kids. And he started talking about how he's just so proud to be a part of a group of kids that love Jesus and are seeking after Him, and have had this great connection. And completely out of the blue, mentioned us, which we know is not us. It's totally the Lord. So we were definitely taken back, but so grateful that the Lord, I think, has just felt it was such an honor, but mostly it was also, we felt like a little wink from the Lord to say, like, keep going. Keep going. So that was really, it was really sweet in so many ways. Undeserving, because we know it's totally the Lord that did it and has done all the things for these kids. So that was a privilege to see that we did get to touch some kids, but to say the Lord saying, like, your work's not done yet.
Yeah, to hear it.
It was a gentle reminder of, like, because again, you go through seasons of discouragement. And we were in a season of discouragement, and it was just a gentle reminder, like you said, a wink or a nudge from the Lord of just saying, "I'm in this. I'm in this still.
Keep going. Keep setting those feet out right in front of you."
Absolutely.
So we definitely feel encouraged moving forward, and feeling like, wow, okay, how do we look forward to how much more the Lord wants to do?
Yeah.
We have an amazing couple, Caleb and Eliza Ramos, that have kind of come on board, that have already done, we're going to have our second worship night next Monday at the Shack too, just to kind of open it up for kids to just learn how to connect with the Lord in any way they want to. So any kids out there on the 16th are going to have another one, so come on out. And it really is just for anyone. If you've never been or always been, like, it's for anybody that wants to come and just worship. And it's set up in a way that they want to show kids that
there's no energy like the energy.
No.
When you go, that you walk, the energy is so.
If you wanna know what the heart of the Lord is for worship, gosh, watch our youth worship.
Oh, gosh.
Watch our youth worship.
There's movement. There's so much movement.
It's so sweet.
Yeah.
I will tell you how many Tuesdays I would feel, especially when trying to teach, and we would kind of laugh after it and go, like, Tuesdays were our hardest day, like at school or whatever's happening in our family was always like, man, can anything else happen on a Tuesday? And we would get to Tuesday evening, and somehow the Lord would just rejuvenate us, and we would walk in and be able to be around those kids. Yeah. What a blessing it was for us to be able to, like, oh, thank you, Lord. And we get to be a part of this.
It's our way of going to the well.
Yeah. It was refreshing.
So, for those of you guys who don't know the Shaws, now you do. And it's going to be really, really exciting to see what happens at the Impact Shack. Yes. And so I encourage you guys, again, keep going on what you guys are doing, because God has already gone before you guys.
Thank you.
He's brought you here. He's continued. You guys are pouring into people's lives. You guys are the Lebanon Stars. You guys are exactly why
and
we do this.
Just to tell you, we are our next guest when we talk about an event that we are having that has impacted the community. Chris is actually on the committee to talk about the.
And she doesn't even know that we're doing that.
Where Hope Lives, and we are going to be meeting with Joe Schutz and Robin Winage is our next guest to talk about that. But
Fantastic.
Such great people.
Yeah.
Chris is a part of that as well. So
Keep pouring. Keep pouring into this community. Again,
It's our privilege.
These guys are great examples. I think you can just encourage them by your gifts, but also just by prayer for this organization. And maybe give a shout out below if your kid's been impacted, because I know there are a lot of people that have. So again, we thank you guys.
thank you, and thank
Thank
you
you.
everybody for joining us.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
I still